My concern is with others is once we start down this path, we're dumping this into waterways that end up in places we're not sure of.
That wasn't the case in this one.
Well, no, we know where it's going.
Okay. So let's, we want to move on with the motion. We're going to have plenty of chance to discuss it when we do fully.
Okay.
And the fact that it is an emergency ordinance really means they have 60 days to move forward. And we can do the other legal considerations. Mr. Fincham, it's got to be as tight as possible when you come back because, as you can see, there are other issues. There's a difference between the lake and the water or a stream. There's a difference between land that's not occupied and land that is. And we need to make sure we come back, but this will at least allow those homeowners at least 60 days of peace of mind. Again, the motion was made by Mr. Popowitz. It was seconded by Mr. Underwood. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. I dare not go for another one. Mr. Schiebel, how long is it going to take you to tell me about Caroline Pines and the date? If you're going to use that whole folder, never mind. But how long is it going? No, how long is it going to tell you before you come up here?
Take me 5 minutes, sir.
How about I give you 3?
I can do it.
All right. Agenda item number 8, gentlemen. Continued discussion of target date for county to begin operating Caroline Pines water system. Mr. Schiebel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a continuation of our work session, and I'm kind of going to jump right to the spreadsheet that the board asked us to relook at. I worked with Mr. Rogers, and we looked at the numbers. If you look at this, we did increase the assumed O&M cost, as well as we have also added a water main replacement program. So on the second column all the way to your right, you see that every 5 years we're including $250,000 to replace lines. At the bottom of the cumulative revenue over expenditures at the end of that 30 years, we're at $1.6 million to the positive. I believe this is what the board was really concerned about. The $84,000, it was the base year O&M estimate, which was based on the employee's salary for an entire year, based on electrical, chemical cost, electrical, and then repair and maintenance.
Really, Mr. Schiebel, this is just informational item for the board's determination of the fiscal impact of the Caroline Pines system based on the actual cost of providing water, the cost of running pipes.
That's correct.
All other costs associated with it. And you project, this is your projection at the bottom, fiscal impact. You project that in January, if we take over operation in January 2012, you project a collection of $106,000 and user fees of $58,000 for fiscal year 2011-12, which is this fiscal year.
That's correct.
Okay. All righty. Since I understand Mr. Seeley didn't get that, I'm going to, we'll just take your report as is, and we will, Mr. Parton, if you could add this on our August 9th meeting for additional discussion, I think that'll be good. And we'll have a chance to discuss it a little more. It was really just to clarify the numbers that we were discussing at our workshop. Okay? All right, that takes care of agenda item number 8, and it is 7:15 almost. Mrs. Skinker, I thought that was you. Okay. And to everyone else assembled, I'm sure everybody's not here for the first public hearing, but everybody's here for the Black Marsh Farms public hearing. Okay. Mrs. Carter, Mrs. Sharon Carter in the back in the white blouse, who is the Commissioner of Revenue, has a sign-in sheet. If you would like to speak during the public hearing, which we will start shortly after 7:30, please sign the sign-in sheet. I've promised to let Mrs. Skinker go first because I think she told us how old she was, and I think she deserves to go first, and she said that. And if there's anybody older than that, I'll let them go first. But We are going to announce at 7:30, we're going to take a little break right now, but at 7:30 when we come back, we're going to announce again for everyone what the rules of the public hearing are, to make sure you'll have one chance to speak. We will, just so you all know, we will not vote on this item tonight, because if 100 people speak and they each get 3 minutes, that's 300 hours. So, or 300 minutes, that's 5 hours. We'd be here till 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'd like to be as fresh and awake as possible when we make a decision. So we're going to adjourn at midnight. So if the public hearing is completed by midnight, we will still have more deliberation, but we will not vote on it. If the public hearing is not finished by midnight, we will continue the public hearing for our next meeting. Okay? We will take a break now, and we will reconvene at 7:30 or shortly thereafter. Does anybody own a brown Honda Civic? Anybody own a brown Honda Civic? Parked over here? Your lights are on. They're still on. I got jumper cables, but they're still on. We'll wait for you. You're the first one to speak? No. Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. You can read. We're going to begin in a second. I promised I'd wait for him to turn his lights off, so we're going to begin in a second, but just to make sure everybody understands the ground rules that we're going to operate under this evening. We will, I guess you're all here for the Black March, I can kind of tell. We will hold a public hearing. We are going to give every speaker 3 minutes, unless you're representing a recognized group, and I guess the chair will have the determination of what's recognized or not, but you will have 3 minutes, groups will have 5. There will be no extensions, no exceptions. We will also adjourn this meeting at midnight, because as we said before, if there are 100 people to speak, that's 300 minutes, that's 5 hours, and I'm sure that you would like us to be fairly fresh and I guess coherent when we make a decision. So it is my understanding that we will not make a decision on the Black Marsh Farm tonight, but as I said, we will take as much public comment as we can. We will adjourn at midnight, and if we've finished all the public comment, we will deliberate at our next board meeting. If we have not finished all the public comment, we will continue the public hearing at our next meeting. So at midnight, hopefully you folks will be able to go home. We'll probably still be here for a little while longer. And we will take breaks during the public hearing because I'm over 50 years old and I've been drinking a lot of water. So that's basically the ground rules. Did my man come back with the lights? He's back? Okay. He's back. We can get started. We've been waiting for him. All righty. Mrs. Hall, are you ready? Okay, we will reconvene the July 26th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors. At this particular point in time, we have a public comment section reserved. The public comment section is for anyone who would like to speak regarding any matter that is not a public hearing. So if you'd like to speak about Black Marsh, if you'd like to speak about the water rates, if you'd like to speak about the Tingler application, you'd have to wait for those particular public hearings. But at this point in time, the board will listen to any person who would like to speak regarding any matter that is not a public hearing. So, hearing so, we'll declare the public comment section open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Okay, we're going to move right along to public hearing number 4. Proposed amendments to the Code of Caroline County to increase the water and sewage usage rates. Mr. Shebel.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight's public hearing is for the amendment of the Caroline County Water and Sewer Ordinance under the Code of Caroline County. In the 2011-2012 budget, it was recommended to raise the user rates by 5%, add an administrative fee to each account of 50 cents, and to charge a capital asset fee to start putting money towards debt service, as all of the funds that were currently received covered O&M. You'll find in your packet the proposed increases. Current rate goes from $14.70 for a base rate to $15.44 for a normal user. For water, for wastewater, it goes from $18.90 to $19.50. Then each of the four tiers increase by 5% as well. A customer that receives a current water bill that uses 5,000 gallons bill is currently, for water and sewer, is $83.90. It will go to $88.21. With that, sir, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shebel. At this time, board members have any questions for Mr. Shebel? All right, hearing none, thank you, Mr. Shebel. We will declare the public hearing to be open on the proposed amendment to the Code of Caroline County to increase the water and sewage rates. And this is just for those who are on the county system. Public hearing is declared open. Would anyone like to speak regarding this matter? Would anyone like to speak regarding this matter? Would anyone like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, public hearing is declared closed. Board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Shebel? No questions? Motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion that we accept the rates as proposed by staff.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Akers. Discussion. I have a question, Mr. Shebel.
Yes, sir.
Bulk rates that we talked about before have been addressed, correct?
The county currently does not have any bulk rates. They're all commercial rates. And
Commercial rates.
Commercial rates increased by 5% as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, special exception 04-2001, Mr. Fincham, Tingler, Wallace and Fanny, owner, Beverly, Allison P. application for a daycare, child care facility. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing is SPEX 04-2011 for Wallace and Fanny Tingler owners and Beverly Allison applicant. The applicant is requesting a special exception permit on tax map 52-A-38, which contains approximately 10 acres of land. Property is located at 7117 Ladysmith Road in the Madison voting district. The proposed use is a child care facility. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this property as being located within the Ladysmith community planning area and designated for neighborhood business. The applicant is requesting a special exception permit to allow a child care facility in her home on Ladysmith Road. The applicant currently has a home occupation permit for a child care facility tending to no more than 12 children. A special exception is required to increase the number of children above that number. The subject property is located approximately 500 feet off of Ladysmith Road on a 10-acre wooded tract of land. Surrounding properties are zoned rural preservation. The applicant has ample space to provide for loading and unloading of children and or parking on site. The total number of children that could be accepted would be determined by the Virginia Department of Social Services, but ultimately that number could be as high as 40 children. The applicant has been working with state and local agencies to determine any necessary requirements and has been working to meet those requirements with the goal of opening the facility or the expanded facility with the beginning of the fall school year. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and forwarded this recommendation to the board with a recommendation of approval subject to the 3 conditions in the staff report. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Fincham? No questions. Thank you, Mr. Fincham. We will declare the public hearing to be open for special exception 04-2001 to be open. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly have met with Allison Beverly about this. Mr. Fincham and I met, and she's shown and explained what she plans to do with the state care. And so therefore, I would move that we approve special exception 04-2011, Tingler, Wallace, and Fanny. Wallace Tingler and Fanny Tingler, owner, and Beverly Anderson, Allison Beverly, principal applicant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Mrs. Hall, I'll take care of that. Okay. We're gonna save a couple of minutes by not asking Mrs. Hall to read the rules for public hearing. I think we said those, 3 minutes for each individual, 5 minutes for a recognized group. Please direct your comments to the chair. That would be me. Whatever you'd like to say to me. Please do not make any personal comments about other supervisors or anything of that nature, because if you do that, you'll forfeit your chance to speak. Okay? Any questions? Mr. Fincham. Special exception 03-2010, Black Marsh Farm Incorporated, owner Black Marsh Farm Incorporated, and Vulcan Construction Materials Limited Partnership is the applicant. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing is SPEX 03-2010, Black Marsh Farm Incorporated, owner Black Marsh Farm Incorporated, and Vulcan Construction Materials LP, applicant. They're requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 4, Section 5, Paragraph 3 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance on Tax Map 5-1-A, which also includes Tax Map 6-1-7A, consisting of 372.7 acres. The property is located at 1224 Black Marsh Drive, approximately 1/2 mile from the intersection of State Route 615 and 728 in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is sand and gravel extraction and sales. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as being located within a resource-sensitive overlay district and designated as rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land. The subject property is located in the Skinker's Neck area of the county, which contains approximately 5,000 acres of land. Notable land uses in the area include the Pettigrew Wildlife Management Area, Four Winds Resort Campground and Golf Course, and Haymount, which is a planned mixed-use development. There's also a significant amount of agricultural production outside of the subject property within the secondary growth area. The majority of the property is currently open fields with a forested buffer along the northern and eastern boundaries. Sand and gravel extraction is proposed for 372 of the 541 acres of the property. The existing house and an apartment unit are not in the area proposed for mining activity. The applicant is proposing to use the river with the tugboat and barges for both equipment loading and unloading, as well as material transport to mitigate impacts on state roads. The equipment unloading area is to be on the north side of the property, with the barge loading area to be on the southeast side of the property. The applicant anticipates a 10 to 20 year time frame for the completion of mining activities based upon market demand. The applicant is proposing a phased excavation and reclamation process in which 40 acres of the site would be actively mined at any given time, allowing other areas to be reclaimed and either converted back to agricultural lands or into a pond, which is proposed as part of development. The application was reviewed by the Virginia Department of Transportation for vehicle impacts. The impact on the proposed roadway would be minimal if the planning or if the board approves the application and the proposed use of the barge on the river. Employees and vendors are estimated to generate approximately 35 vehicles per day. As a comparison, a by right subdivision of the same 372 acres would generate an estimated 140 vehicles per day. The Rappahannock River is the preferred transportation route by the applicant for shipping materials from the site as well as transporting equipment to the site. The excavated material would be transported by river barge, and the applicant has estimated that on average approximately one round trip per day to and from the site would be the barge usage on the river. The proposed operation is subject to the county's Chesapeake Bay preservation regulations, and the property is included in both RMA and RPA designations. There are two proposed RPA encroachments that would accommodate the different barge uses, which would be subject to site plan review and compliance with the Chesapeake Bay provisions at that time. The Virginia Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy Division of Mineral Mining is responsible for overseeing site operations, including erosion and sediment control measures. Virginia Erosion and Sediment Control Act does exempt local governments from enforcement of the E&S regulations once a permit from DMME has been issued. I believe the board previously received a copy of the application as well as all the plans showing the proposed area of excavation as well as the proposed pond that would be constructed at the end of the project. A significant portion of the property is located within a 100-year floodplain, which has generally been identified under the county's floodplain regulations and FEMA's floodplain program as Zone A. No base flood elevation has been identified based upon the flood hazard zones. However, the applicant has submitted an engineered study in conjunction with the Embry Dam, which does establish a floodplain elevation for the site. It should be noted that the floodplain regulations govern construction activity within a floodplain that would raise or increase the elevation of the 100-year floodplain. The floodplain regulations do not specifically address activities which would not increase the level of the 100-year floodplain. A number of agencies have been, we have requested comments from a number of agencies, including DMME, as well as the Virginia Marine Resources Commission. The comments of those agencies, where they have commented, have been included in the staff report. The Rappahannock River Corridor has been the focus of significant planning and development interest for over 2 decades. The 1992 rezoning of Haymount, which provides for the potential of 4,000 dwelling units, 500,000 square feet of office and light industrial, and 250,000 square feet of commercial, served as the impetus for the designation of the Skinker's Neck secondary growth area. The subject property was included as future development area in the Skinker's Neck growth area with the 1994 comprehensive plan, but subsequently removed from that secondary growth area designation in the 2006 to 2026 plan when the county removed the future development designation from all of its growth areas. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates the area as rural preservation with a predominant land, which is the predominant land use designation in the county and reflects the general rural character of the county. The 2030 plan also designates the subject property as being within a resource-sensitive area. The RSA designation recognizes the unique environmental features of the Rappahannock River Valley and the development pressures facing the corridor. The area was first designated as a resource-sensitive area in the 1994 to 2004 Comprehensive Plan. Designation of the area has continued, though modifications to the language and areas of applicability have changed over time. The RSA designation identifies several policies for development within the corridor. All residential, commercial, and industrial applications, including the sand and gravel extraction, must be evaluated for consistency with the applicable policies and guidelines of the RSA to ensure they are consistent with that designation. The policies, as well as staff's review of the application for consistency, are included in the staff report that was sent to the board. As a resource-based use, the location of such uses is tied to the actual location of the resource. Sand and gravel extraction operations are not new to the corridor, although recent applications have seen differing results. The Holloway and Hayfield applications were granted use permits prior to the establishment of the RSA. Hayfield is currently in operation. More recently, a use permit for Fox Spring Farm was denied by the board in 2001 due to concerns about consistency with the RSA designation. In 2008, the board did grant a use permit for Clark's Cut, which abutted the Hayfield operation to the west and north. Operations of Clark's Cut have not commenced due to ongoing litigation. Sand and gravel extraction is permitted as a special exception use in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.3 of the RP District Regulations, subject to a determination that the use is consistent with the general standards contained in Article 17, Section 13D. All use permits shall satisfy those general standards, of which there are 9, and they are also included in your staff report and a staff analysis of consistency with those standards. Pursuant to Article 17, Section 13C, the board may issue a special use permit upon a finding by the board that the use will not be detrimental to the character and development of adjacent properties and will be consistent with the purposes and intent of the provisions of both the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Pursuant to Article 17, Section 13E, the board may specify conditions in granting a use permit as it deems necessary in the public interest to assure compliance with the general standards and any specific standards that may be established for uses that are contained in the ordinance. There are also a number of conditions which are included in your staff report which the board may consider. The Planning Commission held its public hearing at the March 16, 2011 meeting at which approximately 40 people spoke concerning the application, 37 in opposition and 3 in favor. The Planning Commission subsequently held several work sessions to identify and evaluate issues pursuant to the application, and one PC member did accompany staff to a site visit of an existing Vulcan facility in Maryland which also shipped product by barge. The Planning Commission at its June 1, 2011 meeting voted 3-1 on a motion by Mr. Brown to forward the application to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial. Mr. Smith was absent, and Chairman Davis voted against the recommendation after first making a motion for approval, which died for lack of a second. In moving to deny the application, Mr. Brown cited the following. The development pattern of the area is primarily agricultural, recreational, and residential, and there are currently no sand and gravel extraction or other operations in the Skinkers Neck area. While there are properties on Route 17 to the west of Skinkers Neck that are used for sand and gravel operations, the approval of this special exception permit would be the first such use approved in the Skinkers Neck area. The proposed sand and gravel operations would be located approximately 4,800 feet from the edge of Haymount, a near-traditional planned mixed-use development which the board has previously approved for up to 4,000 dwelling units. It would also be adjacent to the privately owned Four Winds Golf and Camping Resort, including a still undeveloped section of that property. While mining impacts such as noise and visibility may be minimized, they could not be eliminated. The request would be approximately 4,800 feet from the boundary of the Skinkers Neck secondary growth area and was not believed to be consistent with the anticipated development of that area, as the boundaries of the secondary growth area might be expanded in the future. Included in your staff report are 30 suggested conditions that staff has prepared for the Planning Commission's consideration, as well as a consideration by the Board of Supervisors should you decide to approve this application. 31 conditions, I apologize. With that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fincham, for that condensed report. At this time, board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham? No questions of Mr. Fincham. Thank you very much, Mr. Fincham. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have 70 people who have signed up to speak. If there is anyone who has not signed up to speak yet, Mrs. Carter, wave your hand once again, is in the back. She's the County Commissioner of the Revenue. She has a sign-up sheet still, and if you would like to speak, please sign up with Mrs. Carter. One last thing, I understand this is a very emotional issue. I understand there are friends who are on different sides of the issue. We understand that there are property rights questions, there are river conservation questions, there are all sorts of questions. I can promise you one thing, that I will try to be as fair as I can during the public hearing, and I can promise you another, that the board will deliberate on this, as I said, at least tonight and again at another board meeting. So having said that, we have 70 people that are signed up. Mrs. Skinker, I did give you the first opportunity, but I understand you do not wish to speak at this time. So I will ask Mr. Parton to read, or you're going to substitute? Mrs. Wachmeister, you're going to substitute for Mrs. Skinker? Okay. Before you get started, because we're going to time you exactly, I'm going to ask Mr. Parton to read the first. Yes. Well, actually, I should. Okay. Mrs. Wachmeister, could I ask you to take your seat, because I was supposed to give the applicant a chance to present his first. So it would be obvious, since you and Mr. Wachmeister here, the applicant is here, but I think you want Mr. Payne to present. So we're going to have, as we normally do, we're going to give the applicant 5 minutes, 5 earth minutes, not 5 supervisor minutes. We're going to give you 5 minutes to make your presentation. You can get started now. You can set up. I won't count that as part of your 5 minutes, but you can get set up now. We'll give you your 5 minutes to make your presentation, and then we will open up the public hearing. When we call your name, there are 2 seats down front. If you will please come to those 2 seats down front so we can have the public hearing flow as smoothly as possible.
Mr. Chairman, other members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Charlie Payne.
Before you go, Mr. Payne, I think there's some discussion. We'll give you longer than 5 minutes.
Thank you.
5 lawyer minutes is the same as 15 or 20 minutes.
I'm not going to be able to earn my money tonight if I only have 5 minutes.
All right. Mr. Parton's timing you. Go.
Mr. Chairman and other members of the Board of Supervisors, thank you. My name is Charlie Payne. And I'm with the law firm Herschel Fleischer, and we are located in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I represent the applicants, both Black Mars Farm and Vulcan Materials. Tonight, and seeing all these wonderful concerned citizens here reminds me of a statement made by Harry Truman in his first election for president. He said, democracy is a wonderful thing and everybody should have a voice. I just want to be there to listen to it. But that's what makes democracy great, is we have lots of folks who have come out from the community to talk about this project and why it matters to them. It seems that I do have a condensed time limit here. We thought we had a little more time to do a presentation, so I will quickly get through my initial comments, and then I will ask Mr. Tom Carroll from Vulcan to come up and do the PowerPoint presentation for the board and the community.
I don't want you to feel like you're shortchanged. So.
Not at all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You don't feel like you're shortchanged, do you?
Not yet.
Okay.
But can I hold that profit? I quickly just want to give an overview of what we're going to present tonight to you and try to do it in a manner that's very efficient and so that it's informative to you and to the community. We believe, first and foremost, that this is a model project. You won't see a project like this where you combine the elements of conservation and industry. This is the way it should be done. And let's not fool ourselves. Industry is not new to the Rappahannock Corridor. I would not be here if it wasn't for the Rappahannock River. My family has been in Virginia since the 1600s, and a guy named John Payne came up the Rappahannock River and stopped at the Falmouth bottom line to trade. The Rappahannock River has been part of our lives, part of who we are, both from a commerce perspective and from a residential perspective for centuries. This is a win-win project for our community and the applicant. We recognize that, but it should be that way. It should be a win for the county and the community. This project is, without a doubt, in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the underlying zoning ordinance. In fact, how we have presented this project is in harmony with the two. And let's remember, the comprehensive plan is a guide. It is not the underlying authority. The zoning ordinance is your underlying authority as to use. Doesn't mean the comprehensive plan is not important, because it absolutely is. But that's why the conditions are in place, and that's why we have proposed the project the way that we have, that we can bring the best of both worlds together and do it in a responsible manner. You will hear in our presentation many of those benefits, and I won't waste your time with that, as I will have Mr. Carroll go through those issues. Jobs are important. There will be 14 new jobs, and this project will generate significant tax revenues for the county, approximately $100,000 or more. And that $100,000 is important. It'll be a long-term annual revenue generator. It will stay in Caroline County, and it will help in many ways with our residential property owners in our county who have to bear the burden many times for tax increases and tax revenue issues. Now you get it from a commercial project that has about zero impact on county core services. It's a net benefit for the county, and it's real. This project, again, I think folks get confused. It will be an ongoing agricultural operation in addition to the extraction. It's very unique how we're doing this. We're not going out there and digging a 372-acre pit. This will be done on a smart, continuum basis. We'll be reclaiming as we're extracting, and Mr. Carroll will get into more of that. Conservation priorities, and I will get into more detail about that the owner is willing to do to protect that property in perpetuity. It's not in the secondary growth area. Let's make that very clear. It's in a rural preservation district. It is an RSA, and we are undertaking all steps necessary to protect the river and the environment. At the same time, allow the ongoing agriculture on that site, which has been going on for centuries. Community support, and we'll talk about that. We've got close to 800 letters from all over the county in community support for this project. And that's real. And at the end, talk about the landowner, because he does matter in this process, and I know you appreciate that and you balance that with the community interests and needs, but we're going to talk about why he matters. And I'll get into more details about that at the end of Mr. Carroll's presentation. With that, I would like to introduce Tom Carroll from Vulcan, the Business Development Director, to go through the PowerPoint of our proposal. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we appreciate the opportunity to be before you here this evening, and I will, in the effort of brevity and make sure that everyone has their opportunity to speak tonight, move through these slides very quickly. I thought it would be very important that we provide you with some background information on Vulcan Materials. Let's see if we can get this. We operate in 22 states, District of Columbia. Our footprint is, when I put this particular slide up here, the darker colors that you see in this slide represent hard rock deposits. The areas in the lighter colors, tans, yellows, are sand and gravel. The star represents basically the Fredericksburg area. Essentially, that is where Mother Nature put these deposits. If you're in the coastal counties of Virginia or North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, basically those materials are imported from other places. And the significance of that, when you look at our footprint here in the southeast United States, the line that you see in yellow represents that geological line that was just on the presentation that you saw, previous slide. The dots to the left are hard rock deposits, and the dots to the right are sand and gravel. Basically, those materials are imported. They're very scarce. From the standpoint that many states, including the Commonwealth of Virginia, have enacted planning legislation that requires local government to include mineral resources in their comp plan, because once you cover these things up or take them out of inventory, it increases the cost of construction or availability of those materials for future generations. There's the footprint of our Mideast division. This is a slide here that shows the distribution of our marine business on the Chesapeake watershed. We go from Havre de Grace, Maryland, all the way through the Norfolk area down into the intercoastal waterways into North Carolina. We operate on many river systems that are very much similar to the Rappahannock, and it's interesting to note that both the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Commonwealth of Virginia have adopted policies to encourage the movement of freight by maritime means. It's noted as being the most safe, low carbon footprint, and removes congestion from our state highways. The end uses for the product that you, excuse me, back up just a little bit here. In Virginia, when you saw that footprint of our operations, we've got over $500 million invested. As you see, 70 production facilities, and our payroll is in excess of $50 million. End uses. Give some folks an idea what this material goes into. And then you talk about the nature of the company that you're entertaining here, having come to your county and become a corporate citizen. We're very proud of the Fortune magazine's rating, and you might say, well, why haven't you been rated in that category since? Well, Fortune, like many other companies, are in cost-cutting mode, and they don't basically rank these sectors anymore. But we earned that ranking as a result of our community service and stewardship. This is our puddle dock operation that sits on the banks of the Appomattox River. We're very involved with school groups and tours there, and constructed a trail down into the riverfront for handicap access. Vulcan is a leader in habitat enhancement. We are the first facility in the United States to receive the Wildlife Habitat Council's certification, and since have been a leader in that area. Over 40 sites in the nation, 20 of those just within our division alone. That community involvement extends to every one of our operations. We work with scout groups on merit badges, tours of our operations, our adopt-a-school programs. We have over 61 formal adopt-a-school partnerships, and we conduct over 9,000 tours just within our division alone for school children. This is a recent article about our involvement along the Appomattox River, where we have an operation that does barge, and we help build a learning trail along that regional park system. Let's talk specifically about Black Marsh now. Mr. Payne